Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Searching the Sacred. Lisa, Steph, and Jason with you, and we are diving into episode 4 of a series where we are navigating the life of Joseph. And we left off with Joseph being arrested for presumably assaulting Potiphar's wife, even though we know that he was falsely accused of that. And so if you want to get into that discussion or listen more to that, I would recommend going back an episode and diving into kind of how we find ourselves here and some of the fun questions that we left you wrestling with when it comes to identity and charisma and how we're clothing ourselves and how those form our identity and all kinds of other fun stuff. And so we are going to continue the conversation now by moving into Joseph's time in prison. And Lisa's going to read from the end of chapter 39 and then some portions from chapter 40 of the book of Genesis. So Lisa, turn it over to you.
This is all going to be with Robert Alter's translation, and I'm just going to kind of pop into different things. So I'll start at verse 20 at the end of 39, and then we'll go around. And Joseph's master took him and placed him in the prison house, the place where the king's prisoners were held. And he was there in the prison house, and God was with Joseph and extended kindness to him, and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison house warden. And the prison house warden placed in Joseph's hands all the prisoners who were in the prison house, and all that they were to do there. It was he who did it. The prison house warden had to see to nothing that was his in his. The prison house warden had to see to nothing that was in his hands, as the Lord was with him, and whatever he did, the Lord made succeed. Then we jump ahead in chapter 40. Joseph is spending his time there, and a person tells him, the chief cupbearer tells him about a dream that he had, and Joseph interprets it. Starting in verse 12. And Joseph said, this is its solution. The 3 tendrils are 3 days. 3 days hence, Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your place, and you will put Pharaoh's cup in his hands, as you used to do when you were his cupbearer. But if you remember, I was with you once, it goes well for you. Do me the kindness, pray to mention me to Pharaoh, and bring me out of this house. For indeed I was stolen from the land of the Hebrews, and here too I have done nothing that I should have been to be put in this pit. And then I'm jumping ahead to the very end of the chapter. And this is Pharaoh's birthday has a big feast. And starting in verse 21, and he restored the chief cupbearer to his cupbearing, and he put the cup in Pharaoh's hand. And the chief baker he impaled, just as Joseph had solved it for him. But the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph. No, he forgot him.
What sticks out to us? I'll name mine first, which is it's really noticeable to me how parallel the language is between the end of 39 and the beginning of 39 in terms of how the warden of the prison is thinking about and seeing Joseph and how Potiphar was thinking about and seeing Joseph. There's really parallel language of all that Joseph is doing is prospering. Everything's under his hand. And so it's happening again, but in a very different place. And there's something there, I think, to wrestle with as we keep moving through this episode, but I'm curious what stuck out to you too.
It is noticeable that men in power seem to do well with Joseph and like having him around.
Mm-hmm.
And I also feel like this is the text for me that I think a lot of people are forgotten when they're in prison. And so that ending of the chapter is a little bit of yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and kind of in light of what you're both are saying, I think it is fascinating that people in power, especially men in power, seem to like having Joseph around, and yet he is so easily discardable. Whether it's his brothers, let's just get rid of him. Whether it's Potiphar, let's just throw him in prison. Whether it's the chief cupbearer who just, the language there at the end is just he didn't remember, but then it like emphasizes, but he forgot. Like, didn't just remember that this would happen, completely forgot. Like, just discardable. Like, yeah,
Which
completely
is really
essential.
like
But
if you had somebody, it seems like such a crazy thing to forget and not have your memory triggered. Like it's only been 3 days. Like this dream is within 3 days, this will happen to you. This wasn't like a year ago.
mhm.
And then it comes to pass exactly as Joseph said, and you don't remember that conversation with Joseph.
And you're the guy who's like, you're gonna be okay. The other guy is gonna get impaled. And it happens. That feels like something you would be like, oh, that's
Yeah.
that's some dream interpretation. I will remember Joseph.
Mhm.
But also,
Yes, yeah. I agree with you. I mean, it is outlandish that they don't remember him. I think it's just weird. And yet, like when you're around power,
Mhm.
your brain goes fuzzy. Like and like it just, you don't act normal. And so like if you're like literally the cupbearer to Pharaoh, to all of Egypt, I mean, your brain is probably numb. Like I don't know. I just think about all the ways that people have lost their brain because Trump smiles at them and puts them in positions of power, and they forget or they ignore everything.
Mhm.
Everything. I mean, they can literally have called him Hitler, and now they are in such positions of power that they seemingly don't care at all. Sorry if this got political. But like, so I mean, at some level, it's like not surprising that some guy in prison who happened to be right, is completely forgotten. Like forgotten. Like why would he be? Why would he be
Well,
memorable?
and even to make it, I think what you're saying about power is even more widely applicable. Yes, the politics are true. And I just want to make it human for all of us that we do that. Like the same thing, like we might be against something, but then if that thing, that person, that entity shows us attention, shows us favor, how
Yep.
we forget what we used to be against because we really like that feeling of favor or inclusion, or and we get a little blind to things. And I just want to give us all some more things to wrestle with there, to not just have it be this guy who, because Trump's never smiled at me, so I'm not that guy, but how am I that guy? How am I
Mm-hmm.
how am I the person who forgot about this dream interpretation? How am I the person that forgets? And I'm thinking about Lisa here, like I cannot tell you how many times 15 years ago, I probably thought about people who were incarcerated a handful of times a year at most. Like I just didn't think about it because they don't live near me. I think about them so often now because Lisa's in my proximity.
Mm-hmm.
But I forgot about huge swaths of the population because they were incarcerated and that's not near me and I have power. So
Mm-hmm.
unless I'm around someone who's talking about it, I forget.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I feel like it's partly that's the system designs it that way,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, they are in the midst of our community. Like,
Mm.
like the prisons are like they're near schools, near roadways, and we're pleased. People drive by prisons all the time, but you don't see the people intentionally. I mean, it's talked about under the guise of like safety, but I don't think we're any safer in this world now than we were before at any other time. Like that's not. Anyways, that's a whole conversation on like what keeps us safe. Um, but I do. There is. I'm not surprised that Joseph is forgotten because it actually, even advocating on behalf of somebody who is in prison is risky with power.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to put some of your own stuff on the line. And if you have if there's anything questionable.
Because somebody ended up there, the cup, in order to remember him.
Yep.
the cupbearer has to advocate for someone who ended up in the king's prison because of something that he did.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is a risk to remembering Joseph
Mm-hmm.
and advocating for Joseph, because you don't know how the Pharaoh is going to respond to you saying, hey, this guy who is imprisoned in your prison because of something he did is actually a pretty cool guy. He might help you. He's falsely imprisoned. Like,
can we dive into the language there at the end, like with the word remember and forgot? Because I often think of like remembering and forgetting is like a slip of the brain, right? Like, oh, I just didn't remember to take out the trash even though I knew it was on the to-do list, or I just forgot to, make that phone call that I was supposed to make to reschedule that thing. Whereas like I didn't remember, like, could there be some intentionality behind? Like, I chose not to like remember myself, to reconnect, or I chose, like, there's like a willful forgetting. Like he forgot Joseph. Like, okay, did he just forget about Joseph, or did he like he forgot Joseph? Like, I am intentionally, you are
it's
not me.
really, so remember has intentionality. Forget almost has more of an accident to it. So there's, so the word for remember is zakar, and we're often told in scripture to remember things. We're told to zakar things. We're told to remember that you were once slaves in Egypt. Remember this crossing and tell your children about it by setting up the memorial of crossing the river. Like, the zakar has a bunch of weight to the things we're supposed to remember. Forget is sakah, and one of the places I think it's really interesting to see this word is in Deuteronomy 8. So before the people are crossing from the wilderness to the land, Moses is warning them, be careful not to forget. You are about to be in a place of abundance. Don't forget what God did for you in this place of scarcity. You be careful not to forget. And that becomes one of the, like, it's both remember and be careful, because you will forget. Because forget really has the idea of like becoming oblivious to it falling from your attention. So like once you're gonna get to a place of abundance, it's gonna fall from your attention that you were once in a place of scarcity. Like, consciously remember it. Fight the forgetting by consciously remembering. And so the cupbearer went from this place of scarcity in the prison to this place of abundance, and he forgot, just as the people are going to be warned that they will forget.
I think, I mean, I feel like I do hear from a lot of folks who are incarcerated that they do feel forgotten, or it's really impactful to them when you remember, like, or you say the thing you're going to do and you do it. Like, it has so much more significant meaning than I think most folks who are not incarcerated understand. And I think it comes from the depth of like power and autonomy that you lose. And so you almost you rely on somebody else's power and autonomy to like assist you in ways. Even in like feeling seen, like even in like phone calls, letters, visits, like what that does for a human. And like when, like, oh yeah, I will visit you. I'll send you money. I'll do these things to help you survive. And then it doesn't happen. Has a particular weight. And I feel like, it's about 2 years that Joseph then like lingers in the background. We don't hear what's happening, but like for 2 years, he's forgotten. And certainly he knows the story of what's happening. Like, he knows the cupbearer. Like, word has
still the cupbearer,
like Joseph knows his dream, like what his interpretation that came true. And to like have that hope, like it's the, like, how do you maintain hope? How does Joseph maintain hope that like maybe someday this guy will remember me? Maybe someday I can got this, because he's innocent. Like, also we have somebody who's wrongfully incarcerated. Like, that is the other thing that's in here, is like Joseph is not supposed to be here.
I think you bring up such an interesting point about like the power dynamic of being reliant on other people actually following through and remembering, because in so many other examples that we could just list millions of, like, if I forget something and my wife has asked me to do, usually it's just followed with, okay, fine, I'll just do it, right? Like, because there's autonomy to do it, right? Like, if I forget to reschedule the appointment for my kid, and she's like, did you reschedule that appointment? And I'm like, oh my gosh, no, I didn't. I'll get to it. She's like, no, I'll just do it, right? Like, there's an autonomy to just solve your own problem when you're free, because you just solve your own problem, right? Or you move on to the next person that can help you with your problem, because there's always another person who needs your services or needs your money or wants your help or whatever it is. Whereas, like, what you're describing is complete reliance on people actually following through on their word and not having any other form of bringing about what you need.
Which that follow through, I think, is an interesting word for a way to think about what Joseph asks for when he's interpreting the dream. So he interprets the dream and he's saying, I was stolen out from the Hebrews. I've done nothing wrong that I should be put here. What he asks for in verse 14 is show kindness, is the way it's translated. That's chesed. We've talked about that word on the podcast before. Show me that faithful, loving kindness that is committed to the well-being of the people around you, which is this core way that God is described and asks humans to behave in kind. Do that thing for me. Show me that sort of commitment and follow through. So it's not just kindness, it's show me commitment, follow through, love by remembering me. And so I'm also, then that makes me extra compassionate for Joseph too, because it does say at the end of 39 that God is showing Joseph chesed. It says that, but then he asks for that chesed from the cupbearer and doesn't get it. And so for those 2 years after that point, does he feel like God's chesed is actually true when humans didn't do their part to fulfill that word? Because, yeah, I don't think it would feel like God was giving me that if humans weren't also giving me that after I asked for it.
You know what's interesting? I work, one of the men that I work with in my other job, his name is Stan, and Stan was wrongfully committed. And he spent some time in a max prison, knowing he was innocent. And he tells a story. It's worth anytime you could get to sit with Stan, you should say yes. But when he talks about his story, like he'll describe it as making a deal with God, that if God got him out of here, he would serve God the rest of his life. That's what he would do. And it is so present for, like, it is why he does the work that he does in the work that he does and how he carries himself in the work that he does. It's a really profound way to, like, hear somebody engage with, like, that kind of experience. Like, I have no way to even comprehend even a minuscule amount of what it would be like to be wrongfully incarcerated and committed to spend time. And then to rely, like, you're relying on God to do something because nothing else can make the thing happen. Like, you're hoping humans respond. You need humans to do a thing, but it feels like it needs a supernatural touch on it because everything is stacked against. And that makes me think of, like, Joseph, and, like, there's no reason for him to get out other than, like, he can do this dream thing. Like, he's obviously he's doing well. He's taking care of things. He's got authority inside of this prison system that he's stuck in. He's doing good work in there. Also not unusual. There are many folks inside of prison that do this same kind of thing, even ones who are in there because they did do something wrong. But, like, he is at the mercy of the thing, not.
Well, and I, Lisa, I really appreciate you sharing that story about him, because the there are moments in life when we have somebody impact us, or we that, like, say when someone passes away, someone that we loved and were close to, we often will say the idea of, like, oh, I want to carry their spirit with me, and, like, and I want their spirit, I want their life to impact my life, and whether it's be more generous, or be more hospitable, or to be kinder, or to be whatever they embodied, you want to carry that with you. And I think sometimes that can happen, but, like, probably not on, like, the life altering transformational, I'm gonna change my entire calling type of way. And it's more, hopefully I am more hospitable, like my grandma, um but I don't think about it. It's not like I changed my career over it. Whereas, like, what you're describing is someone who, because of the circumstances that happened, and the severity of it, and the, like, I mean, just the isolation, or the lack of autonomy, it has moved him to a point of, like, okay, now I know my call. Like, now I know, like, I will never fall. Like, this is my calling. This is, and that is just, it's rare, I think. But also, it's incredibly moving, because, um, I feel like that's the kind of person, like you said, like, you don't ever want to not have a, like, sit down with that person, because, like, it's so rare to be around someone who has such a clear idea of who they are and what their calling is. And it's so
Like
tragic that it's born
commitment.
out of.
Like, right, like there's a it it reminds me of, like, it is so easy to forget, but I feel like Stan is the embodiment of what it means to remember.
Mm,
And, like, even in this scenario, you have somebody, like, 3 days is enough for you to, like, understand, like, what the system is inside. But, like, really, not everybody can do that work of remembering, like, whether it is what they promised, or um, what they committed to do, and then actually, like, stick it out, even when it's not to their own. It's certainly not to their own advantage to stick it out, but they stay
mm,
in it because it's such a deep conviction.
I mean, I've been thinking about, like, Operation Metro Surge here in the Twin Cities, and the difference between people being abducted and us seeing ICE agents on the street here, and remembering that we still have so many people who got detained who are still stuck in El Paso.
yeah.
But now that they're in El Paso, we're like, oh, we feel such relief that the surge is over. And
Hmm.
we're expecting everybody to just get back on their feet. But meanwhile, there's so many families still trying to get their person who is wrongly detained
Hmm.
out of the system. Or now that they're back, they're
Deported. Or
or
actually
or
deported.
deported. Right? Like,
Yeah.
there is a whole slew of people who are just wrongfully detained. And how many people in the Twin Cities, after this traumatic experience we had, already have forgotten all those people because they're detained someplace else.
It is what the system is designed to do.
Right.
It's designed to create forgetfulness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't see inside, because I promise, if any of us could see inside of those detainment facilities, we would be absolutely broken.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to read a little bit about Egyptian detainment, just so that we can picture what's going on for Joseph here, because we can also glamorize his story of, like, oh, God's with Joseph. Great. He must be doing so well. It says the Lord is with him. The Lord is blessing him. So ancient Egyptians' prisons are often called kinret, places of confinement. They were detention centers for prisoners waiting for sentencing. They were labor camps, or they were places to exile criminals. Mainly they were in Thebes, which isn't then in the capital. Again, it's sort of sent away. It's a little bit distant. Thebes included cell blocks and barracks with harsh conditions, often involving forced labor in mines or quarries. Punishment was severe, ranging from hard labor and mutilation. There was often a cutting off of the nose that happened in prison, to execution. They were sent to work in remote, harsh environments like the eastern desert quarries that acted as natural prisons where escape meant death by starvation or thirst. Or sometimes they were sent to prison cities, which were places of exile, where people were then mutilated. The conditions were brutal. There's records indicating being beaten with sticks, having your limbs twisted, and being in forced labor. They also tended to be more pit-like than building-like. And so there's something to like when I picture this is where Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat is problematic to us, because I envision something like just this set of jail bars, even though they wouldn't have had jail bars, and him getting 3 square meals a day while he waited 2 years, as compared to having forced labor, being at risk of beatings and torture, being in harsh conditions, not well fed. Like, he is in a place that is severe and difficult, and he is seemingly forgotten there for years.
I really don't know anybody who has spent 2 years incarcerated. Even 1 year, even in county jail, if we start throwing jail conversation in, who have said like, oh, 2 years. What's 2 years?
Fine. Right.
Yeah. I mean, it is devastating when like a parole board or commutation hearing ends up having these things where they're like, well, let's just see how you do. We'll revisit it in a year. like it's not a big deal. It might be what they consider necessary, but it's handled in such a way that it feels like it's light. And there is not a single hour that is light. Every day matters. It's weighty. It's not a light thing. Like 2 years. I mean, we think like, oh yeah, 2 years, like, time is different when you're inside versus outside. 2 years is the amount of, like, things and trauma that happen in 2 years. Yeah, it's just hard to, like, it's the weight of him. And so, like, when, like, for me, that is why, like, he did not remember, he forgot him. Like, holy crap, like that's a long 2 years.
Which I want to wrestle with that, and combined with, so he is forgotten, he is in these terrible conditions, and yet it starts out in those verses you read in 39 saying the Lord was with Joseph, the Lord showed him chesed, the Lord gave him grace, a favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. The Lord was with Joseph. Everything the Lord made him do prosper. There's this emphasis that the Lord is with him, and yet the Lord does not free him from that place. This is that, I'm using the Lord because I'm reading it, but this is the idea of living presence. We've talked about this beautiful name of God that shows that God is with us and adapting to us and parenting us differently as we need different things. And yet that God is letting Joseph be forgotten in prison for years. That does not feel like chesed to me. That does not feel like grace and favor to me. And I wonder what we do with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is meaningful to have the warden like you.
Yeah, it's not nothing, but it's not freedom.
That's 100%. Like, you are still sleeping in the same place. You are still dealing with all the other things. You might have an ability to maybe be heard. You might be able to plead for something or make a case for a change inside, but it's never for your freedom. It's never for actually like big things. It's like just enough to like maybe keep you from breaking.
It makes me think of Shawshank Redemption and the role that
what I was thinking about.
I forget his name, that he's given with the warden, but it doesn't mean it's actually that he's being taken advantage of. It doesn't give him, and it means he's even watched a little more closely. I mean, it's still, I don't know if we have to worry about a spoiler alert for a movie that's been out for so long, but what is his name as he's given?
Andy Dufresne. Yeah.
Andy Dufresne.
So I was thinking about that movie too, and I would imagine that movie is problematic for people who are working in the prisons or have been incarcerated for a lot of reasons, because there is like a romanticism of the relationships. There's a romanticism of like some autonomy or power, or, you know, the escape obviously is, you know, sorry, big spoiler alert, should have said that. But I mean, it's pretty obvious what's gonna happen. But anyway, But like, they don't shy away from the abuse. They don't shy away from the violence. They don't shy away from the power. You mentioned the warden. Andy does get close to some of the guards and in the warden, but then they never hesitate to remind him who's really in charge. Um, and like, they even are willing to tell the story of like what happens when someone who's been in for so long goes out and doesn't understand the world and can't enter back into it without there being a better system in place to help people do that. And it's incredibly tragic and sad. And so, I mean, I love that movie, and also like I would be very scared to sit down with someone and analyze it, because I'm sure there's so many issues with it. And yet, yeah, I think there's something really.
But there's something, I think
meaningful.
enough people have watched it. What you just named it really beautifully. There's some problematic things in it, but there's also some really important seeing of power and the lack of power when it looks like you have power, which is probably what's happening with Joseph here. It's a good thing to think about. Andy Dufresne being liked by the warden doesn't actually
Yeah.
give him a more pleasant experience, really.
Right.
Right. And Joseph, that's the boat Joseph's in. The warden likes him. And he's still in prison for 2 years.
And I think, so Morgan Freeman plays Red, who's like his friend, the man who can get things, right? And I think what's so powerful about Morgan Freeman's acting in that movie is that he is both like fully embodying this guy who can move around and do things, and has like, he in a way is favored within the prison, like he's got a role, and yet he portrays like abject fear and terror at so many points that just feels so real and visceral. Anyway, so we can stop talking about that.
I think it's important for us to pause here, because I think, at least in my memory right now of how I've been told the Joseph story, there's been some glorification of, because the Lord was with him, he was having a pleasant experience.
Yeah.
And I think what we keep going to is that's probably not true. That the Lord being with him and him being favored by the guard does not
mean
that
he's getting a queen bed and extra meals and extra like it's not. He still is. He is forgotten by the one person who could potentially like plead a case to Pharaoh, because like for all his relationship with the warden's not pleading with Pharaoh to let him
go.
The chief of the jail isn't the one to let him go.
No, because it's a benefit to him that Joseph is there, because again, this isn't about him liking Joseph as like a good guy. It's that Joseph's helping him. Joseph is making his world better and more abundant. So why would I want that guy to get out?
So I think, Steph, what you're helping us do is wrestle with the question of, okay, it's great that Joseph has God's favor, has God's care and provision, like, but what good is it to have all of that from God if it doesn't mean freedom? Like, what good is it if we have all of that and yet we're a slave? What good is that if we have all of that and we're a female in a patriarchal society that sees women as property, or doesn't let them own a credit card until like the 1970s without it being under their husband's name? Like, what good does it do to have the calling to be predestined for glory if it means that we are starving and gonna have our country bombed mercilessly? Like, I think these are some of the wrestles that still resound today, of like, what's the role of God in all of this? Like, where is God in this? It seems like God is blessing Joseph, but what does that even mean when like the one person who could help him, who he helps give assurance to, bails on him? Like, I don't know. I feel like this is the profound human wrestle of like, cool God, and like, what are you going to do?
It pushes us to do a couple things, to recognize that the prosperity gospel is false,
Yeah.
And inside the biblical narrative, people that are named as having God's blessing, presence, all of that are still facing really difficult circumstances. And so that gives us a place to find ourselves in the text if that's us, and to wrestle with God, what God's presence really looks like or doesn't do for us, because these difficult things still happen. So we like to tell this clean story of God's chesed equals my prosperity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just never the way the story unfolds. And so that both causes us to wrestle with what God is doing in the world, but also to wrestle with any theologian who tells us that our life is going to be like, I think about that with a verse like, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, and how that becomes a problematic verse when we just take that verse and put it on a billboard and think that means I can do all things. It means my cancer will get cured. It means whatever. When Paul in that context is even saying, I've been through all these difficult things and I could bear them all because Christ was with me. That's very different than taking that verse and putting it alone.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, it's like wrestling with both sides of that. It's not just saying, why isn't God saving him? But it's also saying, where can I see our bad theology of thinking God would?
Mm. Ooh, okay, say that again. Wow. Say it again.
It's both wrestling with what is God's role in the world, that God isn't saving him, and that the problem of pain, stuff that we need to wrestle with, and the need to wrestle with the bad theology that assumes God would always save us or does always save us.
That is the.
That's a.
Wow.
That's
Put
one
that
way
on a shirt.
one way to end the episode.
Why would we end it there?
We got to confront your bad theology.
You got to wrestle.
That God would intervene. Oh, damn.
Well, it's
I don't mean to swear, but damn.
That was your swear?
No, he just did. But it goes with like, I think we should wrestle with it a little bit before we close, because it's really noticing the way that we want God. We don't want the two sides of the same coin for how God operates in the world. We only want God to, we want God to give us freedom, unless we're in a bad situation. Then we want God to rescue, and we want God to take away. We're not consistent with the way we want God to act in the world. And that's then something to wrestle with ourselves. Do I actually want the kind of God that would always do X? Because then that kind of God would always do.
I don't think it, I think it's more, I don't think we're inconsistent. I think we're just individualized.
Yeah.
That I want God to do what I want God to do is already problematic.
Mm-hmm.
Can I maybe end this with a benediction? And I'm gonna no, it's truly. I'm gonna give you.
Yes, but can Lisa say what she said again so that we hear?
Yeah.
I think the problem that she named is a really important problem to add to the wrestle.
No, I think when we are only thinking about what God is doing for us and how that's part of the thing. We just think that, like, we're partly this is why I was going to end the episode. Because it really forced, like, this is the moment where, like, sit down and kind of think about how you imagine God acting in the world. How do you see God moving in the world? And what does that mean? Not just for you, what does it mean for the person who is currently in Iran? Like, what does that mean? There are Christians in Iran, in case that's a surprise. What does it mean for the person who believes in God in Iran? If we're just going to play with same belief.
Mm-hmm.
There's a particular way that if I just think about what I want God to do, then I have this is what God should be doing, and this is where God should be healing and moving. And yeah, I don't know how else to expand on. It's the wrestle of, like, how do I think of God moving in the world?
Yeah.
How do I think?
You did expand it. It's saying, if I want God to do this for me, now expand that out. Is God does that work for somebody who's in this circumstance, this circumstance,
Right.
this circumstance?
Does it work for somebody who's incarcerated currently?
Yeah.
All right, Jason, close us with the benediction you want to close us with.
So two versions of the same passage. One that you normally hear in church, and then one that's accurate. The first one that you're normally going to hear in church is exactly what Lisa's talking about, the individualistic faith that is the embodiment of privilege and power and kind of like looking at it through a myopic lens. Now to God, who is able to do abundantly more than we could ask or imagine, be all glory in the church and in Jesus Christ now and forevermore. Amen. And now I'm going to give you the actual verse in the actual Bible. And the context is Paul writing from prison saying that my sufferings are for your glory, because what I'm doing here is trying to help you understand the depth of love, even when the world around you is telling you to be divided. Now to God, who is able by the power that is within us, do abundantly more than we could ever ask or imagine, be all glory in the church, in Jesus Christ, now and forevermore. Amen. This has been a 40 Orchards podcast. At 40 Orchards, our mission is to create circles for all people to wrestle through biblical text so that together we can expand each other's experience of what is sacred, whole, and good. We search through the lens of sacred possibility, assuming there is more to be discovered, questioned, and applied as we listen for how God is still speaking. You can learn more about 40 Orchards and sign up for a study by going to 40, that's 40orchards.org. Our opening music is by Les FM. Our closing music is by NCR Music Vibes. Additional music is by 3 Music. Any references to books or other sources can be found in the show notes of this episode. Thank you for searching the sacred.